Today we're going to talk about basic graphing. And so let's look at something we already know, which is a number line. We know that a number line looks like this. It can go on forever and ever in either direction, and that it has numbers on it. So we're going to put 0, 1, 2, 3, and here on this side we'll have our negatives, -1, -2, and so on. We know that all the numbers on this side that go in this direction are positive, while all the numbers that go in this direction are negative numbers. So let's look next at the way we could do this. We could turn our number line vertically. So that way we would have our 0 in the middle, our -1, -2 going down with our negative numbers going downward, and our positive numbers would then go upward. So that's the direction our positive numbers would take. Now that I know that I have both of those, look at what we can do with that. If we start here and I make a point and that's 0, I can make a number line that goes this direction, and let's go ahead and put 1, 2, 3, and we're only going to work with positive numbers today so it doesn't get confusing, 4 and 5. And I can start with 0 on this side and go up just like we did with our vertical line, and so we would have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just like that. Now, this line here that goes horizontally is called our x-axis. And our line that goes vertically is called the y-axis. And so I know if I'm going horizontal this direction, I have my x, and if I go this direction, I have my y's. Let's look at what we can do with that. If I have a set of numbers like 2 and 5, then, well, what looks familiar about that? We see that we have parentheses, so we know that those numbers go together. Just like with any other time that we see numbers in parentheses. But usually in the middle we have a plus, we have a minus symbol, or we might have a multiplication symbol, which tells us what to do. But in this case we have a comma, and that doesn't necessarily tell us what to do with these numbers because it doesn't tell us how we're going to put them together. And the thing is that we're not going to put them together. What we're going to do is look at these and go, oh, there's a comma. That means that these are a coordinate pair. And that's how they relate to each other. And coordinate pairs tell us a specific number on a graph. So when I look at a graph, I want to see a specific number there. And so I'm going to have two numbers that tell me which axis. Remember, we have an x-axis and a y-axis, so these numbers are going to tell me which axis is which number. For instance, and the way this works is that my x is always going to be my first number. Every single time, my x will be my first number in my coordinate pair, and my y will be my second number in my coordinate pair. It doesn't work any way different than that. We have to have them that way all the time, so that any time that you see parentheses with two numbers and a comma in between, that's going to tell me my x, that's the first number, and my y, that's the second number. So let's see how we're going to put the graph. So we're going to go back and draw our graph in here. And I know that my beginning point is going to be 0 because we said we're only working with positive numbers, so everything's going to start at 0 and go forward. And I'm going to draw in some graph lines. So let's put our 1 here, and it's going to go all the way up. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to go ahead and label those 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this again is my x-axis. And I know on my x-axis my number was 2. And I want to make sure that I keep it that way. So now let's look over here at my next set of numbers. Let's draw my y, and there's my 0 line for my y. And I know I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And these lines could keep going on forever and ever, just like any other line. So let's label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we know that this is my y-axis. And my number for my y-axis was a 5. So let's look at how we're going to make those work. I'm going to look at my 2, and I'm going to take this line here and I want to follow it all the way up to where I meet with the 5. And that is where I'm going to make a dot or a point. Okay, so that's where I'm going to make a point. And that tells me then that my x is a 2 and my y is a 5, just like we saw in the previous slide. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do some practice. So let's practice. I'll be passing out some graph paper and putting up some coordinate pairs on the board for you, and then we're going to practice finding the points that match those coordinate pairs.